Today on Top Gear Rearview, I misspeak about a Mini.
Well, that's the Countryman, right? The Mini Countryman.
And Jeff doesn't.
Got about 7 inches to longer if you go to the Clubman. Welcome everybody to Top Gear Rearview. I'm Jeff Lodahl. Brady Kirkwood is on the other side here. We are tonight talking about Top Gear, the new Top Gear, Series 1, Episode 3.
This aired on the 3rd of November, 2002, with star in the reasonably priced car, Ross Kemp.
And tonight, we got some comparisons, the Mini 1 versus the Toyota Yaris Verso. A little bit of a historical review with the Citroen DS. We got the new, at the time, new-ish Aston Martin DB7. Some Grannies doing donuts in an S2000 for the challenge. And essentially a hot lap of the Westfield XTR. So getting right into it, the Mini 1, which is a model we never got over here. It was really just the Mini Cooper.
Yeah, I was interested to find that there was another Mini, because I knew the Cooper and Cooper S, but there was the cheap one.
Yeah. This was new to me as well.
Why didn't that?
It's weird.
I don't know. We don't
Not
like cheap ones?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I wanted to know what was different, too. It sounded like it was just a chip.
Sounded like it was just a chip.
Yeah, so... but,
let's before we get into that, let's talk about this episode started oddly. It started with the news, almost.
It did.
Yeah.
It's strange.
And they did, like, 2 news stories, and then they moved on to the Mini. This is a bit of I think they're still trying to find their groove, even though the first 2 episodes were pretty much a normal Top Gear.
Maybe they liked it and they were like, well, maybe we should try something else, and then we're like, no, we don't do that.
Apparently.
So the one thing that I took away from those was all the sex sells and all the scantily clad models and kind of saying that's not the way to sell a car, and then multiple times throughout the episode you had the bikini model on the car. He
comments right at the beginning of the news that selling cars with sexy ladies is not the right thing to do, and he walks over to the Mini and brushes off a bikini clad lady off the hood of the car.
Yeah, excuse me, ma'am.
starting their tongue-in-cheekiness right away, I can see. It was interesting. This cheap one, the Mini 1, only 10,500 pounds. That's only 1,500 more than what we were quoting as the really cheap Berlingo Multispace.
The Citroen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, for a much better looking car, but as we might find, not a terribly practical one. But how much? What was the price comparison on that one?
So 10,500 pounds back then is about $22,000 here. So, and that was in current dollars. So comparing that to what it's actually selling, because obviously we still sell minis here, they started about 21. So again, this is another one that's kind of decreased a little bit.
Yeah, I guess it's close to on the money. I guess it might be a lot less. They ramped up production a lot, maybe because of the demand.
Yeah,
because I know this was a hot car in the United Kingdom when it first came out. Like everyone wanted one.
Yeah,
it was all.
It was here too.
It was here too as well. That's right. That's a good point.
Yeah,
it's interesting. They said that a used one you could sell for more than a new one. I guess that's just because of the backlog of owners in line trying to get it. It's like
That tends to be, yeah.
Okay, so that's the only reason that I was wondering if there's any other reason, like good for drug runs or something like that.
I don't think so, but maybe. Given the versatility, I'm gonna say no.
There's all that space has to go somewhere. So Jeremy is driving this thing around the Billing Aquadrome.
What on earth is an aquadrome?
Which has a funny name. Turns out it's just essentially a campsite around some lakes. Trying to get I guess north of London, maybe an hour or 2 north of London. Not even that far. But he said you could stay there for £9 a night. You can stay there right now for $19.
That's, I think, again, a discount. Maybe the inflation hasn't hit as hard over there.
It's interesting. He built it up like, we're going to go find out what this Billing Aquadrome is.
Yeah.
And then he's like, it's a campsite. All right, so here's the Mini.
I was excited. That sounded badass.
Aquadrome sounded like somewhere where they raced boats or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
The Thunderdome underwater.
Super lame.
Nope.
Man, underwater Thunderdome. That'd be perfect.
That'd be pretty sweet.
So let's talk about the car. Billing Aquadrome aside, let's talk about the car. So now, the Mini, when it came out, I am also surprised to say it has not changed at all since 2002.
It's gotten bigger. I mean, it looks the same. There have been minor changes in terms of like aesthetic stuff, but it really has gotten a lot bigger.
Oh, so they've increased the size, but they've kept the styling the same. I guess that's the smart
Proportions are about the same, but it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, the small one's still not a huge car, but like you can get them as like a 4-door, almost not quite SUV, more of a crossover now. But they're getting to the point where it's like, it's not a Mini anymore.
Well, that's the Countryman, right? The Mini Countryman.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an ugly little bugger.
He
comments that the wheelbase is the same as a Land Rover Discovery. I mean, I guess you can compare wheelbases as a way to compare car size, but I don't think that's necessarily very...
Did he say Discovery or Defender?
He said Discovery.
You see, the wheelbase on this car, the distance between the back wheels and the front ones, is exactly the same as it is on a Land Rover Discovery.
Okay.
Yeah, he said Discovery. So wheelbase to wheel, it's the same as the Land Rover Discovery. But the Land Rover Discovery has like a Mini hanging off the back side of the wheel.
Yep.
And the front side of the wheel. That's not a very good comparison.
Yeah.
But I think it made his point, though.
It did, yeah.
There's not a lot of room in that thing.
No.
Not a lot at all. And... every time I see a new Mini, all I think about is Project Binky. You all should check out Project Binky.
Oh God, you should.
Because
it's one of the best YouTube series there are.
He commented that he could fit a bunch of people in the trunk of an old Mini. No, you could not. I saw them trying to fabricate a gas tank to fit in the back of that thing. You can't fit a bunch of kids. But check out Project Binky. It's called Project Binky, Binky, on YouTube. Two British guys rebuilding an old Mini, but they're putting in a turbocharged Toyota Celica engine into it, and it's awesome.
It's the GT4 engine, which is a really good engine.
It's awesome.
Full drivetrain, all-wheel drive as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I looked up the dimensions real quick. So the 2002, when it first came to the States, was about 143, 144 inches long, and it's grown to anywhere from 151 to 158. So it's got about 7 inches to longer if you go to the club in.
Okay.
Width and height about the same.
Oh, so not too bad.
No, a little longer, but not as bad as I thought.
Okay. All right. Well, that's better than most cars. Most cars really bloat over time.
Yes, they do.
They have to keep reintroducing small cars because their small cars bloat into mid-sized cars.
Yeah. Other than that, the Mini's a Mini. I remember liking them when they first came out. My dad was a fan. We went and looked at a couple and were like, I think we came to the same conclusion. This is not particularly useful.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's just pretty, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a BMW at heart. I mean, they have they're owned by BMW, so they got good design engineers there. Now the other car, the Yaris Verso, that's something we never got here.
We had 2 models of Yaris in the United States.
Yeah, we do. I mean, that still is around. That's the subcompact Toyota, but we never got the Verso, which is more of a station wagon-y van kind of thing. Which again, I appreciate. I like that particular niche.
It, he made a good comparison for probably a lot cheaper. You got, I guess if you didn't have an orangutan trying to put the seats down, a lot more practical of a car.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to it. And we commented a little bit, and I thought that maybe I was a little too cosmetics happy on the first episode of Top Gear Rearview. But a lot of people buy a car because of how it looks.
Uh-huh.
There's not vast majority of people buy a car because of how it looks. And the most protected and important part of a car production line is its paint booth. And the reason behind that is because people buy a car because of how it looks. But that being said, would I rather have a Yaris Verso or a Mini? I guess if I had more than 2 people, I'd have to go with the Yaris Verso. But I think I'd rather have a Mini out of the 2.
There's some like weird design quirks, like the center mounted speedo and everything in the Mini. I never like that.
Well, if you look at it, the Yaris Verso kind of has a similar thing. It's like it's like the projected one down the tunnel.
Yeah, that was pretty weird.
Yeah, so it's got a similar thing. So that's 1 for 1. I guess it's practicality versus looks. Really, is what you're getting down to is and price. Practicality and price versus looks. Yeah. And I guess depending on how much the price difference is, maybe I could be swayed one way or the other.
Yeah, and they didn't do. I mean, I don't think they would do any kind of power lap with those.
No. I think they might do. I think they might do a Cooper S at some point in the future. I'm not sure though.
They made another variant. So the S is the supercharged one, and then there was the John Cooper Works, which is kind of the special order one, and that's like a chipped and supercharged one, and they're relatively quick. So I would like to see that one. But yeah, the Mini one being the base model, I gotta imagine is kind of a dog.
It's probably a dog.
For me, it's a dog.
Yep.
So now one thing they started interspersing, I guess, before we jump into this, anything else on the Mini or the Yaris? I have very few notes on the two.
The Yaris, I have to say, another Jeremy Clarksonism.
It's perfect in every way, except it looks like an ugly snake that swallowed a wardrobe.
Yeah, that was a weird comparison.
It's a pretty good one. Yeah, that's all I have on that.
All right, so they kind of at that point like jumped into like this like nationality design and stuff. They've had this kind of vein that flowed through the episode with a couple designers and talking about the design of cars and how what was a beautiful car, and it took them to the Porsche 928, which I don't think is a bad looking car at all. Nice and curvy, and I did like the side window and especially that wraparound rear window. But then comparing that to the Sierra XR4, which is not quite the same.
I'm going to go ahead
and
interrupt you and say I think the Porsche 928 is the ugliest Porsche ever.
No.
I hate the integrated bumper. I hate the big, fat, bulbous back end.
It is a chubby butt.
I do not. I've never liked it. I've never liked the way that car's looked. It always has looked like, well, an ugly snake that swallowed a round wardrobe.
Okay, what about the 914?
Let me get these side by side.
I'm trying to think what else is an ugly Porsche. Yeah, the 928 is not my favorite. I like 944 is not super dissimilar, but it's got the pop-up headlights and it's a little more angular. And I always did like the 944.
I like the 914 more than the 928 all day, every day.
Fair enough. All right. What about the 986 Boxer?
Ooh,
that's the first gen Boxer.
Boxers are pretty bad.
Yeah, with that brought about the droopy egg headlights, and the proportions were all weird on those. So I don't know. I think I
still like the Boxer more than that 928.
Man,
I hate that 928. I think it looks so ugly.
All right. I do not think by any means it's like the perfection, the pinnacle of automotive design, but I think it's prettier than a couple Porsches. No, there is. I'll have to put a note or a link in the show notes. There was a recent Jalopnik story about the they go into a pretty hard to get into Porsche garage with a bunch of previous models, and they have some really cool stuff in there, like a lot of 959s and all these like really pretty cars, and like some of the original Cayenne prototypes, which are kind of interesting because some of them have like a split butt, like they're trying to figure out how to do the hatch, and they have two concepts on one car side by side. Mm-hmm. But then they have a few others, like when they were first trying to figure out how to introduce a 4-door, which eventually became the Panamera. But they have some that like they look like just the most boring cars ever. Like they look like Saturns. So I'll see if I can dig up a link for that, because it's an interesting story to read and be like, here's some of the things that they passed on and why it makes pretty sense visually.
I'm just clicking through pictures of 928s. Oh, they're awful.
So then you probably prefer the XR4, the Sierra.
I think it looks better. Yeah, the 928's an ugly car.
Yeah, and that's funny. That is one of the Fords that not quite the RS, but it did come to America as a Mercer. I don't remember Mercure. I don't remember how to say it, but it was the XR4 Ti, and that was like this weird little sub brand that existed for a few years. And I by happenstance, I drove by one on the way home from the grocery store today, and it was obviously one that somebody had modified because it was stinky and it was loud.
Someone had quote unquote modified.
I mean, given like how fast the dude was going, I was like, that's probably a fun car. And that's another one. I mean, it looks like almost identical to the Sierra XR4, and I like how they look. I think that one is not a bad looking car. It's very appropriate for the time.
Yeah, I also like to comment that his name was Peter Holbury, the car designer. Yep. And he commented that, not very often do you have a car that goes 20 years without being changed, like body style, and he was saying that as a hallmark of the 928 design. And I thought to myself, isn't that just every Porsche? Like, take for the most part, look at any 20-year period of any Porsche ever made, and look at the beginning and look at the end and go, well, not much has changed there. especially the 911. But
fair, yeah, the 911's the 911. They had their drunk period where they made the 996 gen, and then they were like, oh god, we got to go back.
Yeah.
So speaking of pretty cars, Citroen DS. What do you think?
Gorgeous car.
God, I love those cars.
Just a gorgeous car. It really is. The back end, I mean, I guess what we're talking about looks all around on this one. The back end is a little iffy, but I've always liked the fender covers over the back wheels on cars. I think that always makes it look so good. It makes it look so futuristic no matter when you put it on, because you're like, oh, these people care so much about aerodynamics, they don't care about changing their tires. And I think that helps it, but the front looks so good. And I mean, the car came out in 55, they said. Oh my god, It's a revolution. It really is.
Unbelievable
It really is.
For 55. Yeah. I fully agree. I think I see him every once in a while. There's actually, amazingly enough, one on Bring a Trailer right now. It is not local. It is in the Netherlands. It's currently at $14,000, which is, I think, a bargain but God, they're a very unique and very pretty car.
Yeah, I do enjoy them. I know much later, James May does a kind of rally style race in one of them, and it looks gorgeous then too. It's got the yellow headlamps on it. They said that they've introduced a few features into it. The one that Hammond was driving had swiveling headlights. Isn't that something that Lexus tried to bring out 3 years ago?
Yeah, it's a new feature on a lot of cars. They said that, and I was like, holy God, I didn't realize that existed back then.
No, Citroen DS, baby.
Man, they're in a lot of aspects very far ahead of their time. Now talking about Citroen, to kind of go to what came after it, or at least I think they might have been concurrent. But what do you think of the Citroen SM? I'll give you a minute to Google.
Let me look it up. Man, another one with the fender flares. You're really gonna get me on this.
I know. Yeah, they got that really tucked rear wheel. Yeah.
It looks so low and flat. It looks really. I think it must be the rear fender cover. Yeah, that was not as pretty.
No, I agree. I think the DS is it's something else.
That's interesting. It looks like the back wheels are considerably further in than the front wheels on that car.
It does. It looks like
a
seriously smaller track.
Pinches on the back side. And that's interesting. I wonder if that's the same on the DS.
Yeah, from what I recall, I mean, it depends. I think it came in a couple different models. But comparing that to the Berlingo multi-space that was recent, I was like, oh man, you guys have fallen off the wagon.
Where did you go wrong, Citroen?
Oh, so pretty though. I'm a fan. If that one was not in the Netherlands, my wife is also a fan, and she was like, you should probably buy one of those.
What is a Mangles?
A what?
So Hammond commented, it's back in the 50s, people were still standing at their mangles. I think it's something to do with laundry. He was commenting on how revolutionary it is.
Oh, I think it's the crank thing that dries them.
Squeeze the water out?
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's a mangles? Or a mangle? I think it's a mangle. Singular mangle?
Just the one mangle.
All right. I like to bring up a conversation. I think this episode might be a bit light because there's a lot of car design talk. But I'd like to talk about the steering wheel stock gear shift, or what we would like to call generally in the United States 3 on the tree, or a gear shift lever on the tree. Now, I lived in the UK, and I was surprised, I suppose, I'm not sure how surprised, that even though obviously the driver's on the other side of the car, most all of the controls were in the same orientation. So while I'm shifting with my left hand, it's still 1, 2, 3, 4 going left to right, not right to left. Mm-hmm. They don't shift that backwards. And when you're sitting in the car, you get in and you go to turn your key to turn the car on, and that's on the right. They don't mirror it. The clutch, the pedal outlay is exactly the same. They don't mirror that.
Now they mirror the wipers and the signals, though. No, they do. On at least some of the cars, because I've had this discussion with people who have had right-hand drive cars, and they are consistently turning on the wipers instead of the signals.
Not in the Fiesta that I rented.
Okay.
I had two different cars, and neither of them. It was left hand blinkers all the time.
Okay, I know some Toyotas do that and some Nissans do.
I wonder if
that.
I wonder if that's a Japanese thing versus a British thing.
It could definitely be.
But that being said, the on the steering column gear shift lever is on the other side.
It is, yeah.
Which I found interesting. That's what brought me up. I'm like, why is he shifting with his left hand? Why isn't that also on the right hand? But I guess you shift with your left hand, so that the gear shift stuff is mirrored. I wonder if I guess I have never driven a 3 on the tree. I don't know which way is what on.
I don't know what the pattern is.
I wonder if that's different, but I just thought it was interesting that one thing was mirrored, that it wasn't also on the right side.
Yeah, that is, yeah. I mean, there's a few things I know, but yeah, for the most part, I would agree. It's just kind of shifted as opposed to mirrored. So, yeah.
That's all I got.
All right, I really do want to drive a 3 or 4 or 5 on a tree, just because it's got to be so weird.
It's got to be weird.
All right, so the Granny's doing donuts again. They tease it, but we'll push that later in the episode because that's where it falls in the episode. So I guess next up would be Mr. Ross Kemp.
Yeah, Ross Kemp, quite a famous person in the United Kingdom. They commented that he was on a show called Ultimate Force, and then he said EastEnders incorrectly.
Yep.
The show EastEnders, which might be one of the most famous shows in the United Kingdom. It is a soap opera, essentially.
Okay.
It has run since 1985.
Oh, that's not impressive. We got like Guiding Light that's been done since like the 50s.
Since 1985, it has 5,500 episodes.
That's a lot of episodes.
That is a lot of episodes.
Oh my God. Okay.
So it is quite a famous, and it's it's kind of one of those things that's always there. It's definitely a soap opera.
Okay.
I don't know. I never watched EastEnders when I was in the UK, so I don't know how close and similar it is to American soap operas, if it's as hilariously dramatic and product placement laden as it is. I would assume it's not, since it's probably on the BBC.
Yeah.
But, so that's the kind of thing, is he's on probably one of the most famous shows in the UK at the time, and probably still is. So that's what he does. He's also an investigative reporter. He's gotten a few BAFTAs, which is kind of their Emmy for things, quick in documentaries about Ross Kemp in Afghanistan, Ross Kemp on gangs. So he's famous enough to title his things his name. So I guess that's one thing you can say about him.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, there are something like Richard Attenborough obviously made it across the pond. There's a few others that have. I don't think he has because I didn't. I looked at his IMDb page and I was like, nope.
Yep. Okay. Pretty much British.
All right. He did have some interesting things. So the first thing I had, his car that he spoke of was a 996 Turbo, which coincidentally is a car that I'm hoping I might find for cheap in the not too distant future, because that is a monster of a car. I mean, that's the 996 generation Porsches 911s have the ugly kind of droopy headlights. There was the first generation of water-cooled Porsches, and a lot of them have what's called an IMS bearing issue. It's the intermediate shaft, which is deep within the guts of the flat six, and if it fails, you need an engine, which in a Porsche is $10,000+.
Yeah.
So that particular one, the 996 Turbo, did not have that issue. So they're kind of a bargain if you can deal with the looks. They have something like 450 horsepower, and they're all-wheel drive, and they are fun from what I hear.
That would be so much fun.
That is the bargain of the 996 generation. That's I found that funny. I was like, I'm actually kind of casually shopping that if I could ever find one affordable.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to look up. They talked about how his idea of a vacation is going down the west coast of France, through Spain, over to Italy, I guess presumably through France again, to Switzerland, to Germany, back through France, and then home. And I wanted to look at what kind of journey that was compared to the United States. But there's so much variation of what is through Spain, and Spain's a relatively large country for Europe, and how much of Germany did he see? So I didn't want to do that. But that being said, his idea of a vacation was driving through, if you count France just once, 6 countries, including the United Kingdom, and he did it in like 5 days. So pretty much just driving, not really going there to stop. Like, he's not going to a beach on the Riviera. He's cruising. He's looking at the beach as he drives through. Hey, how you doing? I'm going to Italy now. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
So I guess he's kind of a car guy. He's certainly not as much of a car guy as JK.
No, it sounds like he enjoys his car, which I can appreciate. And I did like that they did the game again, though. And I think they started with JK when they actually were looking at like zoomed in pieces of cars, and then trying to identify them. JK was quite good at that.
Did you get any of the ones from JK's?
I actually got most of them.
I got the Murcielago. The mini one was easy. I got the Murcielago.
Yeah. The Defender.
And that was this time. That was Ross Kemp.
Was it? Okay, I got that one. I'm trying to remember which was which. I got a decent amount.
And I didn't get many of the other ones from Ross Kemp, like Fiat Punto and stuff like that. I'm not going to get any of
the Fiat Punto was impressive. Yeah, there were a few that I was like, not our car. But
no.
I did okay. I was not ashamed of my performance. The other interesting thing I found from that interview was that was the first wet lap by a celebrity, which kind of established the plus 4 second rule.
Yeah, the 4 seconds. So they put the Stig out there normally, and he ran a 146 in the Lassetti, and then he went back out in the rain, and he ran a 150 dead. So
it's not the Lassetti yet, sir. It's the Liana.
Sorry. Whoa.
Come on.
Whoa, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Liana. So he ran a 146, and then he ran a 150. So that's the 4 second differential. So essentially, that's what you can look at between a car, similar drivers. So Ross Kemp ran a 154, right?
I didn't actually write it down.
I believe he ran a 154, so that puts him.
I think so. That sounds right.
Right at Clarkson time and a couple seconds behind JK, and about
which makes sense.
3 minutes ahead of Harry Enfield.
Not a very populated board so far. Yeah,
it was pretty sparse.
Yeah. All right, on to the Aston.
Yeah, I guess I don't know where I have this note from, and at some point they talked about the Ford Mondeo, which in my mind was always the British equivalent to the Taurus.
It's the Contour.
It's definitely the Contour. I looked at the picture, I'm like, oh, no.
That's not the Taurus.
No, that's not the Taurus, that's the Contour. I just wrote that down. So that's like the biggest Ford quote-unquote saloon that they make over there. So that's kind of our...
Yeah, the Mondeo, yeah.
That's our mid-range over here. So again, another thing on the size. But yeah, let's talk about the DB7.
All right, so first of all, what do you think of the DB7? How do you like the looks? Do you
so
like it?
you commented at the start of the episode that the DB7 came out in 94, so it's not very new at all.
Not at all.
No, and so I thought the DB7 looked like it was old. It looks like an old Aston Martin, but it had all the hallmarks of the Aston Martin design. It had that double bump grille. Mm-hmm. It had the kind of sloped, angled headlights. It has all the hallmarks. I think it's just not quite there yet. I think I'm in my mind, I'm looking for the Vanquish. That's what
in all caps on my notes. I have ugly. I do not like it. I think it looks misproportionate.
The headlights look small. The grille looks small. It's a big car. It's got a V12. I'm looking for something that commands it a little bit more. And I just think the DB7 is not very... I agree. I'm on board with you. I wrote Aston Martin DB7 quote question mark. Really, Jeremy?
No, that's that was I was very, very opposed to his viewpoint there, especially considering the DB5 and the DB9. The before and after are both gorgeous cars.
Yep.
So I don't know what went wrong, but have you ever seen a DB7 Zagato?
You know what? I saw them when I looked them up after this episode.
Oh God, it's the grill on that thing because Zagato, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It looks like a catfish.
They went a little. So the DB7 actually has a little bit too small of a grill, but this is
yeah. They're like, we'll fix that.
It's interesting. I was looking through a Wikipedia page of the Aston Martin cars, and there's a Zagato for almost every DB. What is the Zagato? What is that moniker?
I honestly don't know, and I think we should probably look it up right now just to see. I think he's a designer that like modifies. I'm sure it's a dude. Independent coach building company.
Okay. So he gets Aston Martin, and he does. Yeah, he changes it. He modifies it.
It's like roof. It's like there's a bunch Gambala. There's a bunch of like places that modify 911s and stuff, and I think it's similar where they take it and they tweak it. All right, I'm looking at the list of Zagatos now. He's done a few Bentleys, a lot of Astons, a few BMWs,
a lot of Alfa Romeos.
Couple Ferraris.
A Lancia.
A Nissan.
Whoever's paying
Maz.
money. He did the
right.
Lancia Hyena.
He did the Cadillac Eldorado Nart. I don't know what that is. I'm clicking the link. I mean, I honestly, no, nothing in there. Looking at the some of the pictures from the wiki article, he makes some interesting looking cars and some that I don't hate. Like I think some of his Astons are pretty nice looking, but that DB7, it looks like a confused catfish.
So we can both agree that the DB7 not that great looking. In the realm of every single Aston Martin, I mean, probably bottom 3 at least.
It's not. I mean, there's some weird ones like the Lagonda. Have you seen a Lagonda? Square headlights. I don't hate it, but I don't like it. But then you got some monsters like the 177 and these other like these super rare ones, and they're pretty. And the DBS, I gotta say, that's one of the best looking cars I can think of. I think the amount of grills on that is perfect.
DBS is good. The DB9 is good. So all these cars at the same time, the Vantage, the DB9, the DBS, they're all very, very similar to each other.
Oh yeah. Now looking at some comps to this in terms of price and performance, you got the 360 Modena and you got like the 996 Turbo, the one we were talking about, the 911. I don't think either of those are lookers either, so it's kind of just like a lull in the design phase, I guess. All the designers in Germany and Italy just got drunk.
Super drunk. Yeah.
I guess in the UK.
It's interesting. He's talking about the DB7, but the Vanquish comes out in 2000. And the Vanquish is just
way better looking.
Oh my god, just a hot car. Love it. Now,
so I don't quite know where to throw this in, so I'm throwing it in now. So they had these designers there throughout the episode a little bit.
Oh, the Lagonda is awful.
Isn't it terrible? Oh, it's a doozy. So anyway, Peter Horbury, he was in the beginning, and I was looking at what he has done before. He kind of went from Volvo to Ford to Volvo. He seems like he's a higher up guy, like not necessarily a designer, more of a little bit of a designer, but like a manager of designers more so. Whereas Ian Callum, he is a pretty well known designer.
Okay.
So he did the RS200. If you remember that one from the last episode, that was the one that Jeremy spun.
Yes.
I have heard that car is insanely difficult to drive. It is a rocket ship, but with a short wheelbase and everything, it is a tricky car to get right.
Okay.
So he did that. He did the DB9, which very good looking car. And now this is an interesting thing. So they had them do kind of a competition where they were to draw what Jeremy came up with, which is the next iteration of the E-Type. And that I was honestly falling asleep a little bit at this point, and that piqued my attention because I was like, there is a next iteration of the E-Type. It is the F-Type, which has come out recently. So I really wanted to see how similar it looked. And Ian Callum, who actually is the designer of the F-Type, or kind of at least was part of the design team, his sketch is pretty dead close to the F-Type.
It's got that overhang rear,
just a little bit, and then it's got the little
rear.
kick up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw that and I was like, that is not bad.
I wonder if he brought him on there and he's like, give us the next E-Type, and Ian's like, oh well, I can't give away too much.
Yeah, let's make it close, but not too close. I mean, the F-Type came out just in the last couple years. I don't remember when the first model was. I'm going to say 15 or so. So it would have been well early in the design phase there, but I wonder where that falls. 13, okay. So 10 years roughly. Yep. So I wonder where he was in the actual design of that when this question came up. Because I gotta say, the F-Type is one of my favorite current cars. I think that is just a drop dead gorgeous car.
Oh yeah, and it sounds great and it drives great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a guy in the UK who hadn't Aston Martin Vanquish when I lived there, and I went out for beers with him a few times. Good guy to know, and he ended up buying an F-Type.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard great things about the entire line. I mean, I hear even the V6 is a fun car. I was behind one driving out of the dealership a few weeks ago, and it was the sound coming out of it was just wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, there really isn't a place for that segment, but it was interesting that they did it. I kind of, every time they do something like that inside the studio, I think that they're just running out of money for the season.
Yeah.
For the season.
Yeah. That would be awful early this season, but yeah. I didn't hate it. The beginning part, I literally wrote oof when they were talking about the early stuff. But then they had this, and that really piqued my attention and held it because I thought it was a good comparison. It's fun to be able to like look at those things now, 15 years on, and say, yeah, okay, there's something there.
Yeah. Let's go straight to the Westfield XTR.
Wait. Are we into the Grannies now?
Should we? All right.
I don't know where it falls.
I'm always jumping ahead. Yes. The XTR is last. The Grannies is second to last.
Yeah. Okay. Would your grandma be able to do a donut?
I think my grandmother would. Yes. My
grandma. I think mine would too.
My grandma drives a big old fat Lincoln Town Car, so I know she knows how to put the pedal down. And you just kind of spin her around a little bit and tell her to. Those Grannies, they all went for it, man.
I know. I was impressed. Like, I figured at least one would just be like, nope, can't do it. But man, like even the 80-year-old.
Just driving in circles. Put more gas down. No, I don't think so. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, can't do it. I heard he was kind of coaching him, saying like, okay, a little less throttle, a little more. Did you hear the one just banging the limiter? It was just like, she wasn't listening.
Good donut though.
Yeah. Like it was impressive. None of them, every single one, I was like, yeah, you go.
I have to say that must have been like a driver's license test car, because they were sitting, those, four other old ladies sitting really close to another old lady doing just burnout donuts. It's like, what happens if she catches a little bit of grip and starts driving right at him?
That's a good point. I didn't think about it. I didn't see a second set of controls, but he had to have something.
He must have had a brake pedal or something. If not, that was very stupid.
Very ballsy.
Yeah, exactly.
Expensive insurance policy on that one.
Yeah, I think my grandma could have done that. For sure.
Yeah, it was. I was more entertained by that than I thought I was going to be. It was fun to watch.
They were ripping it up. They were hooning it around.
Yeah, Grannies, you go.
Okay, now can we talk about the Westfield XTR?
Now we can talk about the Westfield.
All right, so this is a kit car.
Yes.
It is on the same lines as the modern day Caterham. As a matter of fact, they make a knockoff Caterham, which I think, did you have something else on that one?
Well, so there's a company in somewhere, Palisades, Colorado, somewhere on the western slope of Colorado, that's called Flying Miata, and they sell a number of kits. There's one called the Catfish. There's the Exoset, which I happen to have in my garage, and then there's they sell a bunch of Westfield variants where it is, that one in particular is a Caterham replica, essentially, in which actually is a Lotus 7 replica, if we really want to get all the way back there, and it uses a Miata drivetrain.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this one was not a Miata drivetrain. This was a Hayabusa drivetrain.
Yes, which is interesting. They commented on that. They commented that the clutch was still a Hayabusa clutch.
Now that's designed to be used with your fingers, not your foot. It means you've got to be very, very precise and careful with it.
So the travel on that clutch must have been like an inch, maybe?
Yeah, now have you ridden a motorcycle? Do you understand the clutches?
I've ridden a dirt bike. That's as far as I've gone.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's compared to a clutch pedal, like your friction point's pretty small.
Yes.
And you got a little more control in your fingers than you do in your foot.
Yeah, your full engage to full disengage is not very far, especially when you kind of look at how much the actual wire is moving, the actual metal wire is moving. It's maybe moving like maybe half an inch, maybe an inch.
Yep.
It's not a lot. It's not a lot of room. So I guess.
Now, I don't know. Offhand, I'm not sure if the Busa is a hydraulic or a cable clutch. Because like I have a V-Strom Suzuki, and it is a hydraulic clutch. So that is more like a car in that, it's fluid as opposed to a cable.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. And you can just change the piston that you're using on the pedal for that. But
you change your cylinder.
It's even to the point that he commented that it was difficult and finicky to use. So it makes me think that it might not have been.
The interesting, they didn't really explain the transmission, because a motorcycle transmission, I assume they're using that to mate up easily, and that's very different than a car H pattern transmission. It's sequential, so you have first, neutral, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and no reverse. So I wonder how they do that.
I wonder if the car just doesn't have reverse. I mean, it's
light enough. You just get out and push it backwards.
I mean, they said it's road legal, quote unquote. I'm not sure about that, but it might just not have a reverse. And also, I don't know if reverse gear is a road legality sort of issue.
I'm not sure. There are some interesting. I've had a Ural, a sidecar bike that had a legitimate reverse, so they could just have engineered something like that, where it's like a side box that spins in the backwards direction, or what like the Honda Goldwing does. They actually use the starter motor spinning backwards. They bump the starter motor backwards as a reverse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they could do that too. But I was as a car nerd, I kind of wish. Well, now I've done more research, but that they had gone into it a little more. So. That I like. One thing that has disappeared that I did like on this was the little kind of heads-up display they had for the power laps.
Yeah, I find they could have done a lot with taking some of the things out of that. Like, I don't think they need the lap time or the splits, but the G meter is cool.
Super cool.
For someone getting into it new, the lap map is pretty cool, and that's something that's super it's not distracting down there in the corner, just a little dot moving around. I thought that was very cool. I do kind of miss parts of that, yeah. I think they got to get rid of the splits at the top. There's a lot on the screen. There's a lot
didn't matter.
going on.
But yeah, the map, the speed, and the Gs, I think would be awesome. You don't even need the G chart. Like, honestly, the only thing that really nobody cares about vertical, or about accelerating and stopping Gs. It's more the cornering Gs, and this one hit 1.3 plus, which is ripping through a corner.
That's a lot of Gs.
Yeah,
that thing's flying around. Yeah, I guess they really could have modified that to make it a little cleaner. I bet it probably just got rid of it because the editing the thing together was probably a bit of a fiasco.
Oh, sure.
Getting the data in, putting the heads-up display, and then linking that to the video. I bet that was probably just a nightmare for him. I wish they would have kept
We'll have to keep an eye. Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on what they actually do, because it's funny now that you have. So there's an action camera now. I think it still exists. I want to say it was made by Garmin, and it has that kind of stuff built in. You can have that on. So like you can go buy these things for $400. Mount it up to your car and go autocross and get all that data overlaid. You could basically replicate that with only one camera angle, but pretty sweet. Yeah. So I checked out the comps on this one, what it would have compared to, and as you would expect, you got a Caterham R500, which is very similar. That is a Lotus 7 replica that's got some serious power.
The R500 is the top end of the Caterham, right?
It used to be. I think they got a bigger one now. Okay. But that used to be for sure at the time. The Ariel Atom and the Radical SR3.
I do not know the Radical SR3, but I know the other ones. Mostly from talking.
Yeah, so the Radical SR3 is more of like an autocrosser or like a track car. I don't know if that one was track or was street legal.
Okay.
But, for number comparison, we had on this guy 183 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. The Ariel was 190 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.6. I think it's a chunkier car.
That's slow.
Yeah, the R500 was 230 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.5. So same 0 to 60 with 50 more horsepower.
Okay.
And then the Radical was 252 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.5. So 70 more horsepower, same 0 to 60. So I could see where they chose this. This is a not crazy powerful, but very quick car.
It's only 410 kilograms. That's nothing. That really is.
That's like 4 dudes.
It's like 3 me. It's like 4 tires in the engine. I mean, you put a driver in that car, you're adding like 15-20% of the total curb weight to it.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's really light, which is why I can get away with such a small engine. They made the comparison that it's 460 horsepower per ton, and the Zonda is 440. So it is more horsepower per ton than the Zonda. Obviously limited, I think, on the high end on speed, but probably not on acceleration. Probably the same.
Yeah, you run out of aero. So, the top speed on the Zonda is certainly going to be higher. But as the numbers show, faster around the course.
Yeah, I mean, they had to round up to. I don't understand. They're like, we have to round up. It's like, why? Can we not understand decimals?
Yeah.
Just write the decimal.
Yeah.
It's obviously faster. It was like 0.6. It was like, what was it, 122?
Yeah, barely rounded up. 122.6 versus, I can't remember what the Zonda was, 123 something.
Yeah. Well, presumably less than 5. So, it's like they could have been almost a second apart, but they're both on the lap time for 133. So just write the decimal. And they do eventually write the decimal, which is good because it's ridiculous.
Well, and it starts getting crowded and really close.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
those tenths of a second really matter.
So I'm dubious about its road legalness compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah.
But, I think it'd be really a hoot and a half to drive. I've always had there's some small part back corner of my mind saying, if I didn't have to work, I'd have a Caterham or RS500, R500.
Yeah.
And, maybe there's other options out there. I've always just thought, I'll just have a Caterham. I'd like to build it. And it's one of my favorite Top Gear episodes is when they actually build the Caterham.
Yeah. That's a ways out, but man, I enjoyed that one too.
And so it's like, I'd really like to have one of those. A lot of my car choices, hilariously enough, dictated by Top Gear.
I think that's about it. The one last note that I would like to end on was this was the first time that Clarkson said on that bombshell, and it was a legitimate bombshell.
My God, I wrote that too. I wrote almost ended on bombshell. They just got cut short.
Yeah. Hammond did something. He threw something in, but yeah, it was like, oh, there it is, but not quite.
Yep. So this is the first one with the bombshell, which is going to be our friendly goodbye for many, many more episodes of Top Gear Rearview.
Now I wonder, I do not know when this actually becomes the regular. This is the first time he said it, but I think it's later series that he actually ends on that every time. So we shall see.
So Jeff, on that bombshell.
Wait, we're not quite done yet. Thank you everybody for listening. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, I believe Stitcher, and like and subscribe. Write a review that'll help us get up in the ratings a little bit. We'll have some social media coming soon. I think I'm going to get a Facebook going here. And then we are also available if you have any questions, comments, anything like that. You can shoot us an email at topgearrearview@gmail.com. So on that bombshell.
Talk to you later.